Hey, all my Aquarius friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your August 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Aquarius, I'm talking about Aquarius rising as the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Aquarius sun and Aquarius moon. If you have 3 or more planets in the sign of Aquarius, this video is also for you. When I refer to a day and a time, it is based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. I will also tell you verbally what house is in play, as the chart will change as I go through the month. It will not stay, it will not be on Aquarius rising. So the month starts off with what I think is going to be the soundtrack of the month. What's happening for most of the month, playing in the background, but not in our absolute awareness, is the square and a half from Jupiter to Pluto, and then the square from Jupiter, growing square from Jupiter to Saturn retrograde. Pluto is in your first house of self. It dipped its toe into your house and gave you a little taste of what's to come. And now it's going to move back about a month from now into your 12th house and sort of reconstruct whatever has been sitting beneath the surface to make you feel invisible, to make you feel unseen, to make you feel as if you're repeating old patterns. The square and a half between Pluto and Jupiter in Gemini is your 5th house of self-expression and creativity, is like, it feels almost as if it has this, the square represents the box that I know that I'm in, but the half square feels as if it's this weird underbelly, this sort of haunting of what I can't put my finger on. And this would really be more about some sort of psychological imprint, somewhere where you feel powerless, or you feel a lack of control, or something feels like it has power and control over you. Capricorn naturally rules history. It naturally rules leadership and government, and this is your 12th house. So this could be some sort of soul's karmic imprint and that feeling of being here before. We also see that Saturn is in your 2nd house of Pisces, making a square to your 5th house. This is really bringing up again this kind of historic old energy of potentially not feeling valuable enough, not be feeling seen for your creations, not getting credit for them, or even wanting to escape the pain of not being able to express them. With having Mars moving into a conjunction with Jupiter, which will happen in the middle of the month, this is a very inflammatory energy on some level. It can be very polarizing in that those are standing in awareness could really harness this energy and take advantage of it. And yet those that are just living on the earth and walking on the earth as if they don't have a soul will feel, really inflamed by things, I think, by their belief system, and any assaults they feel are on that belief system. So this is running in the background of the month. And it's like that muzak when you get into the elevator, especially this square and a half, because the square, where's my cursor? The square to Saturn will be felt more obviously. This is more of a psychological imprint, something that's sitting beneath the surface that I can't put my finger on. Now, at the same time, we see that Mercury is in Virgo. This is your 8th house of transformation, of other people's money, of it's a house where we see finance, traders, stock market, things like that. We also see it ruling power and control. We see this bit of Virgo energy overlaid on that, where there's being of service and duty. And also, this could have something to do potentially with health, whether you're physically or more importantly, mentally stressed out. Then things are going to start to come to the surface. Now, when I say come to the surface, it's Mercury here in your 8th house, in its rulership. But it's not only in its rulership, it's in its exaltation. So it is, really the highest of the supreme energies here in Virgo. It is stationing to go retrograde on the 4th in 3 days. And it's making this energy very powerful. It's going to move just about another degree before it sits in the sky and starts thinking about, what do I want for myself? How do I want to take care of my own personal health? Am I actually thriving and enjoying the eighth house activities that I'm doing? And that includes intimacy, because the eighth house also rules sex. It rules the occult. It rules anywhere where things have power over us. And again, I want to kind of emphasize that this feels as if it's some sort of emotional dominion versus somebody actually physically holding me back from what I want. Okay, now let's go to the 4th, where it's a pretty big day. It starts off at 4:13 a.m. before the sun has even truly risen in the sky here in the Pacific. And we have a new moon. This new moon in Leo. Leo is your 7th house. This is at the Piscean degree. So we're planting the seeds for something new, something that I want to experience in the way of fun and joy and pleasure and romance, and even a sense of self-expression. The 7th house, while it rules marriage partnerships, it also rules a sense of peace and harmony within. And being able to express our authentic self always gives us peace and harmony. We feel loved when people accept us for who we are. We also see this is a house where we see professional collaborations. So there's the potential of planting the seeds for something new in direct relation to your own personal creativity, as Gemini is your 5th house. And this is a really nice sextile between Jupiter, which also rules business, commerce, publishing, writing, as well as foreign travel, foreign people, foreign cultures, diversity, ideologies, and philosophies. I'm sorry, I kept mixing those words together. So this is really fabulous. And I want to offer this because you could find yourself, this could be media related as well, because both Jupiter and Gemini have a media energy to them. Jupiter is technically in detriment in Gemini, but I also believe that Jupiter is a world traveler. So this gives Jupiter the best opportunity to experience the most diversity. And that's about paying attention to the details, paying attention to the idea that we are a human apparatus and we are operating as such. Sometimes Jupiter can be up on the mountain and be a little bit so high in the sky that it doesn't really connect to the valley. And here there's an opportunity to connect to the valley as it transits through Gemini. I hope that made sense. Now, later in the day, Venus is going to enter her fall and Mercury is going to go retrograde. This is significant because, again, we're at a new moon, the darkest phase of the moon. We're planting the seeds for something new, for some kind of transformation. And Venus is at the apex of a yod. A yod is the finger of God, where this is the focal point between a quincunx to Pluto and a quincunx to Neptune. And yet Neptune and Pluto are in a sextile. So this is something that, again, your sense of self-worth, your value, your money, it could all be, there could be this, it almost feels as if there's something hanging around in the background of my awareness. I can't quite put my finger on it. I can't quite, nail it down so I can align it, fix it, do what I need to do with it. But I don't think that that's really the point. I think this is a feeling energy. Venus rules our partnership. She rules our creativity. She rules our sense of comfort, food, security. So a lot of this to me is about my emotional body. And having this, Mercury went through this at the end of July, and now Mercury will go through this again in retrograde in a few days. We'll see that in a minute. But right now, Venus is sitting at 29 degrees of Leo. She is later in the day will be at 0 degrees, but Right now, she's on the royal star Regulus. And I think the blind spot here is, do I see my own divinity? Do I see my own capabilities? Do I see the greatness within? 29 degrees reduces down to an 11. 11 is the master number of thought. Neptune, which rules my spirituality, a lot of my creativity, a lot of my dreaminess about how the world can be. It's also, well, we don't see Saturn right now because we're focused on Venus. Saturn is calling us all to create a strong platform and a foundation with our spirituality in order to manifest here on the earth plane. And this is echoing that right now, this Neptune energy. And then Pluto is, wanting to bubble up wherever Aquarius is not feeling their full, expression, their full genius. So this is really powerful. Now we see this trine to Chiron. Chiron is in Aries. Aries is your third house of thought, of your community, your neighborhoods, your everyday errands and such. And there's a cooperative component in that trine, because as you individualize and discern, that's the Aries energy. We could even say, as you use your head, because Aries rules the head, there's a potential for something to transform, the wound to become a gift. We also see at this new moon, there's this square to Uranus. And with Taurus being your fourth house, there's the potential that you could feel that if you're too rebellious, you are not, feeling the love of those at home. You could even potentially have a challenge with a sibling, because Mercury rules siblings, or a disagreement. I want to say you don't align in values or views, potentially that could happen. All of this is setting the stage for the potential of the day. Now, when we move I'm going to go to 10 p.m. because by 10 p.m., Mercury has gone retrograde, and now Venus is at the 0 degree, which is really now Pluto's focus. Pluto's having this very intense. Are we going to go around this, around and around and around, or are we going to move the story forward? Are we willing to see our greatness and our genius, or are we going to keep defaulting to feeling a sense of anxiety about this transformation, or a sense of exile, or a sense of not belonging? I think that this is pretty powerful, because as Mercury retrogrades, these two are going to fuse, but fuse as they're going like ships in a night, crossing over one another, rather than moving in tandem together. So there's really a review of self-worth, of money, of using my skills, of my sense of cooperation with other people. Okay, now just for technicalities, I want you to know that Mercury is going to move from 8-4 retrograde at 4 degrees all the way back to 21 degrees of Leo. It will re-enter Leo on the 14th, and it will go direct on the 28th. And I'm going to move to the 14th now, because I think that this is a really powerful day, powerful period of time, because the story of the month is basically, we're running a similar theme throughout the month as the stars are conversing with one another. But here on the 14th, and I believe this is at somewhere around the Democratic National Convention. And I think that's important to mention, especially with Saturn's influence here, because Aquarius, in your fifth house of self-expression, of joy and happiness and laughs, we have an exact conjunction with Jupiter and Mars. And this conjunction is really, really, it can be very inflammatory. It's at the 16th degree, which is the Cancerian degree. People could be very impassioned about their patriotism, about what they believe is best for the outside world, the country, the city, the neighborhood, the school. It could be very polarizing, is a word I want to use, because people will be willing to fight for what they believe. They'll be willing to argue, to go to the mat. And we see that this is a focal point. I'll just click on Mars, in a T-square between Venus, and this is going to grow even tighter as we move a few days from now. Venus is in an opposition to Saturn, and Saturn is in a square to Jupiter and Mars. At the same time, we have this emotional, opposition So this is where I really feel Sagittarius is your 11th house. This might be a day when you want to be mindful, Aquarius, of how you present yourself on the internet, how you present your views. You could feel a lot of passion. You could feel potentially a lot of fear. You could potentially feel as if things are dying, because again, we still have this, we've endured this square and a half for over 2 weeks now, and a little bit longer, where this underbelly of my beliefs, my business, my livelihood, my expansion could potentially be annihilated. And Venus is very much feeling the tension here. So now let's look at another aspect here, because now we have the moon making I can't get it to quite click that. Oh, there we go. Now we have Saturn, the focal point of the moon's opposition to Mars and Jupiter. And this T-square is really kind of calling forth an erosion of your second house, where you feel a sense of dryness or limitation. And that could very well come from things outside of yourself. The Jupiter rules the Supreme Court. It rules higher knowledge and authority figures. We're looking at people who endeavor, we look at the Supreme Court and things like that. So I think this could trigger people to be concerned about their finances, about the prosperity moving forward. Again, we see Virgo is your 8th house of other people's money. And, that would be where your clients are, where you interact with others, where your stocks are, where your financial investments are. So this is a really tense day. So we have 2 focal points. We've got Venus and Saturn making a T-square to Mars and Jupiter. And then we have Mars and Jupiter and the moon making a T-square to Saturn. So this is the man, this is the government, this is the judicial system, this is my beliefs, and this is the god of anger, resentment, and war. And so this is very tense. I would be very mindful on the roads as well, Aquarius. I would watch any sort of feelings of, I'm not letting that guy in, just let him in, just don't engage if you can. Try to be a little bit more benign on the road. I think people are going to be it's going to be quite a time. That's all I can say. I don't want to be negative, but there's just so much going on to challenge us right now, to be aware, to be conscious, to make choices. And I think that's super evidenced by Mercury's retrograde and the yacht it's creating. Be mindful of what you're thinking and how you're showing up and what you're speaking, because you may unconsciously be doing things that you don't realize you're doing that challenge you on a karmic, on a soul level. I guess what I'm trying to say, to be plain, is this could be a fork in the road where you display a new version of yourself, Aquarius, that aware version that doesn't react, that doesn't pull off your ruling planet's unexpected. And I didn't even mention that Saturn is your co-ruling planet. That's just should have come out of my mouth minutes ago, but it didn't. So that's really powerful to pay attention to as it's retrograding and it's arguing with beliefs. Let's go now to the 19th, where we're going to have a full moon in your house. I think that's really going to bring some light to any situations. That's at 11:25 a.m. And I say that because, again, we see these T-squares growing. So we have this 27-degree sun over here in the house of Leo, your partnerships, both professional and intimate, as well as how you create a sense of peace and a sense of harmony and a sense of diplomacy within yourself. Now we have Mercury conjunct this sun during the full moon. Mercury is normally considered, or any planet is considered, combust when it's up against the sun, and yet Mercury is the planet that travels most closely to the sun. It's the hottest planet in our solar system. So here I feel like there's a fusion of being illuminated about how I show up and present myself in the outside world, and how that reflects what I really think, and how I feel and how I speak and what I teach others about me through my speech. We see that the T-square between Venus And Jupiter and Mars and Saturn, your co-ruler, is very tight now. This is my money, my history, my sense of being restricted. And here's, broader thoughts that make me want to really sort of express myself in a way that wants to go to war over my beliefs, because somehow I'm feeling restricted, and that shouldn't be happening that way. This also makes a sextile to Chiron, in the sense that Mars has an opportunity to display itself as the peaceful warrior, to see a bigger picture of potentially how contrast serves versus doesn't necessarily destruct. I recently watched a documentary on Abraham Lincoln, and I had not realized that the Civil War did not start over slavery. It started over the states' rights to act independently. And it was later on within the war when the focus shifted, which is very interesting. So I feel a sort of a revisit of history in some way. So we want to pay attention to our focus and be discerning in our beliefs, not just take things in because they're there. I did want to mention this. I think I might have. Saturn is going to square Jupiter 3 times. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize. I've been doing video after video, so I want to make sure I don't forget anything. Saturn is going to retrograde 3 times. Once now in its exact square to Jupiter. We will see this again in December, and then in January when Jupiter retrogrades and revisits Saturn. So we're going to see government and the court systems, the higher court systems, in some sort of challenge. We also see at this full moon that your ruling planet, your dominant ruling planet, Uranus, over here in your 4th house of home, is in a direct square, a T-square, to this full moon. It's 27 degrees, which is the Gemini degree. And I think this is really powerful because as I even look at the chart, I see the 15 right here, 15 minutes. That's the Gemini degree. I see the 11 here, which is the master number of thought. And then I see this 14, which reduces down to a 5, which is the 5th house and Leo energy, and coming from my heart, which is that's what your 7th house, being Leo, being that house of partnerships and that house of cooperation and peace, is like coming into peace with yourself. And there's a very powerful spot in the Libra energy, which is naturally rules the 7th house, which focuses in on the relationship with self. Now, what's happening here, actually, when I look at this, must be an Aquarius, no, it's on Sagittarius. This here in your Uranus in your 4th house is giving you an opportunity to have an epiphany about something to do with 4th house matters, which not only includes the mother energy, the home experience, but it also has something to do with the country of origin. And so you may find through some sort of process or analysis, something's come into your awareness, potentially through media that you weren't unaware of, that pulls something and gives you more sight, more options, I guess I want to put it that way, or a new perspective and way of looking at things. And the sun is about to move into this yod position here with Pluto and Neptune. So this is really powerful as well, because this is going to illuminate how I present myself out into the world. And there's an opportunity through these 2 planets that have this hidden dynamic to them. We have this underbelly of the psyche here with Pluto, and we have this feeling of erosion a little bit with Neptune sometimes, as if I'm fading away. And none of those things have to happen when you present yourself to yourself before you present yourself to the outside world. I hope that made sense. Now let's go back to 12 o'clock. And we will see on the 22nd, the sun take that position as the apex of this yod. again, when I kind of call the, when I hear the term finger of God, I see it, the divinity in the contrast. I see God's hand allowing me to feel a sense of empowerment by not being able to use my physical senses to determine what it is I need to do, or where I need to move, or where I need to shift. These quincunxes are blind spots. And then the square to Uranus, your ruling planet, is, could potentially be feeling a sense of anxiety because I can't necessarily see the road ahead. I can't illuminate that. But this is all about coming from the soul's inner knowing. And on some level, Aquarius is used to that. It's what ultimately gives Aquarius the willingness to rebel against that which is stale and repressive. Now let's go to the 29th. And by the 29th, we'll see Mercury has gone direct. We will see that Venus has moved into her rulership here. Again, Libra is your 9th house of beliefs, of, diplomacy, and I mean that literally, because the court systems and the Sagittarian energy has a real international diplomatic feel to it for me. But where I'm going with this is she's in conjunction with the supergalactic center right now. And that's really powerful, because this is where Venus gets to experience the power of a relationship with herself, with her money, with her sense of comfort, with her own skills and ability to create comfort and money and resources. And it's in an opposition right now to, I'm sorry, it's not an opposition. It is an opposition to Neptune. Now, this opposition is interesting because the opposition is Neptune encouraging Venus to revisit her spirituality, while she's just spent, all the whole month of August in Virgo, essentially being very analytical and very realistic and very practical. And she's kind of feels like she's arguing with her best friend. Don't you understand? I need to do these things. And her best friend over here, Neptune, is saying, no, we need to go down to our heart, get down to that water, the emotion, the ebb and the flow. And that's very much supported by the sextiles from Neptune to Uranus. But it's not an easy initial transit, because Venus likes to move into partnership, especially in Libra. She doesn't really focus on herself. She tends to focus on other people. And I think that's where, in some ways, another 2.0 version is being offered through Pluto's trine to Venus at this point. So where there was a blind spot, now there's more clarity. And we can see that Uranus is in a trine to Pluto. Pluto is in a trine to Venus, and Venus is in a trine to Uranus. So this is what they call a grand trine, offering a favorable aspect for an harmonious shift of the way of thinking. Now, there is a little bit out of orb, I guess, if we with this being in the Taurus energy, but I think it's still very strong here. And we've also, by this time, Mars has moved away from Jupiter and is just a wee bit less fired up to argue about things that are large systems and ideologies. It's a little bit of a, well, it's just a polarizing time. I'm sorry, I don't know how any other way to say it. I'm trying to sugarcoat it, but it's not very sugary. It's a little bit sweet and sour, really. And here we are at the end of the month, where Venus is now in exact conjunction with the supergalactic center, and her awarenesses are growing, and she's being encouraged by the South Node on some level to be egoless to that which holds her back, to express her individuality. And as she does, she brings more harmony, peace, and a sense of cooperation into her relationships. So I think this is a super important thing to be able to have consciousness of during this month. We also see the month ending with a quincunx to Mars. And this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, because Mars could again get inflamed. Whenever we're around the Cancer energy, there's a sense of patriotism or a sense of fighting for my home. And that might be something that, People might be thinking, is this what I need to do, is to be more assertive? And I think maybe we want to actually take Venus's cue and look at the relationship we have with ourselves and do our best to create a sense of peace and harmony within ourselves, and then allow that to be the inspiration that moves us forward. We still have a square at the end of the month between Saturn and Jupiter. And that's, again, the government and the Supreme Court having an argument and not being able to settle things. And we could feel unsettled ourselves because of all of this. We look to our leaders for leadership, not for arguments. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, my Aquarius friends, for joining me today. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, I'm available. And please like, please subscribe, please share. See you in September. Have a great August, all my Aquarius friends. Bye-bye.